Hello and welcome to The Hub on CGTN. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. Greetings, everyone.
As China charts the course for its 15th five-year plan, the country is once again emphasizing high-quality development and deeper international cooperation and a more open approach to the world. In the recommendations of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China for formulating the 15th five-year plan for national economic and social development, it is stated that China should engage in deeper exchanges and mutual learning with other cultures and carry out extensive people-to-people exchanges and cooperation. New Zealand is one of the countries that shares this vision. Both nations see learning and sustainability as essential to building a better future. In education, China and New Zealand have established a long-standing partnership, from university exchanges and joint research programs to platforms like the China Education Expo, now in its 26th year. With New Zealand as this year's guest of honor, the Expo reflects how the two sides are turning policy ideas into real-world cooperation, cultivating talent and mutual learning and mutual understanding for a more connected world. That same spirit of collaboration extends to climate action. As the world prepares for COP30, both countries are stepping up efforts to promote low-carbon development and green innovation. China's 15th five-year plan places environmental protection and scientific progress at its core, while New Zealand continues to lead globally in renewable energy and biodiversity protection. And to share more insights on this partnership and how education, science, and climate action are shaping our shared future,
Now, we're delighted to have New Zealand's Minister of Science, Innovation and Technology, Honorable Dr. Shane Reti, joining us today. Minister Reti, welcome to Beijing, China, and to this forum on international education. We learned that New Zealand was recognized, rightly so, as the guest of honor. How do you feel about this arrangement, now leading this very big delegation in China for this forum?
Well, thank you, Guan. It's a real honor and a privilege to be the country of honor. And the education relationship between New Zealand and China is strong. It's been strong for many years. I met with Minister Hui this morning, and we agreed that we will look to see how we can make it even stronger, that we'll look at how we can deepen that relationship through student exchanges, through partnerships with vocational and universities, and through research collaboration. So it's been a strong relationship, and we're going to look at how we can make it even better.
Yeah. How do you feel about the cooperation on science and innovation, given the fact that China has been evolving very rapidly in particularly the application of AI, of some of the leading and cutting-edge technologies of the world? What kind of educational cooperation projects are in the pipeline?
Look, I think this is really exciting because there are things that clearly China is excellent at, and there are some things, humbly, we may be good at as well. Some would say that we're good at agriculture, that we're good at biotechnology. And what we're looking to do is how we can bring the best of China and the best of New Zealand together to further those educational relationships. We both win when we do that.
Can you give us some specific examples on the things that you've touched, like agricultural cooperation, for example?
Sure. So I've actually just come from a function where I believe 34 memorandums of understanding were signed between New Zealand institutions and Chinese institutions. That's just today, 34. I believe there may be 40 or more that have already been signed. So we have this groundwork between us where the best of China can work with the best of New Zealand, and together we can move forward in international education.
I know that STEM education and AI education are a big part of the future of New Zealand. The country has been stepping up funding and resources for these very issues, from primary school all the way through university. How do you see our two countries working together in those fields? And in particular, initiatives being signed, agreements being arranged?
So I think we both want the same things from AI. I think we both want to improve productivity. We both want to move forward in a modern digital world, and artificial intelligence is important for that. For us, we would be thinking about what areas might we be looking to deploy artificial intelligence. Again, might it be in the agri-tech sector? Might it be in other areas that we work well? You have real expertise in artificial intelligence. We maybe have the laboratory and the platform where it could be deployed. So let's put ourselves together and see what magic we can create.
Can you again give us some specific examples of how agricultural cooperation benefited not just China but New Zealand? Your expertise and know-how economy can be about.
So a good example of where the collaboration between China and New Zealand makes a difference is in a biological pest called the brown mummierated stink bug. Now, we don't have it in New Zealand yet, but if we do, it will be a problem for us. You have it here and have developed biological mechanisms as to how to defeat it. More specifically, you are using a samurai wasp to great effect. And so we've developed a collaboration between New Zealand and actually with industry as well, with the kiwi fruit industry and with the China's Agricultural University to look at how we can use this biological control if the mummierated stink bug comes to New Zealand.
I know because a lot of Chinese consumers, they're happy with their lives by and large, but there's one thing that they took issue with, that is the quality of food. And they look up to places like New Zealand, which prides itself in producing all natural products and produces, especially in agriculture. Can you maybe share with us some New Zealand expertise on how you delivered, how you pulled it off? Given the size of the country and the scale of your agriculture, you can still produce natural stuff without much pesticide, fertilizers that some of the producers here took issue with?
Food security is really important. And again, Minister Huai and Minister Yin both explained to me that priorities for China include food science, include health science, include science around the environment. But food science was mentioned several times. And we have, because we're a small country and we export consumables, we export food products like kiwi fruit and dairy products. We've needed to be excellent at our food security. We've needed to be excellent at our food management so that when it's received offshore, people know it's high quality and safe. And around that, we've built education, we've built learning, we've built expertise and infrastructure in food technology. And we actually have Chinese students who come to New Zealand to learn food technology at some of our institutes so that they can bring that expertise home. That's the sort of collaboration that we can have.
So Minister Reti, let's talk about education. New Zealand is still a favored destination of study for Chinese students. We learned that the Chinese student body make up something like a third of all international students currently studying in New Zealand. Why do you think that's the case?
So as you've said, Chinese students are the biggest source of international students for New Zealand. And I think there's several things to that. We know that when we survey students that there's high satisfaction amongst Chinese students for the educational offering that we're providing. And I think that comes down to a number of things. First of all, they're looking for quality education. They're looking for international qualifications. They're also looking for a student experience that is warm and inclusive and inviting. In fact, we were one of the first countries to bring in what's called a pastoral code of conduct, which means that we have an obligation to look after our international students. So we really look to take care of our international students, and I suspect that's why it's popular.
Pastoral code of conduct. Can you elaborate for us on that?
A pastoral code of conduct is a code of conduct that providers, technical institutes, universities, those who take on international students are obliged to follow the pastoral code of conduct, which means you have to look after your students, you have to make sure that they're well cared for, you have to take into account their well-being. It's all an obligation that goes with the privilege of having international students.
And then in what ways do you think the Chinese students are contributing to the classrooms, the discussions and debates of New Zealand higher learning institutions?
Chinese students enrich our environment. They enrich our learning environment. They enrich our communities. They help us take a place on the global stage. They bring their perspectives, their viewpoints, their history, and we are better for having them amongst us.
We noticed that the Chinese students are everywhere in New Zealand. Last time I visited, because the Chinese education system is such that a lot of students go to countries like Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and the US, partly to have a change of a lifestyle, because there has been this very rigorous, cutthroat competition the Gaokao, which is known as one of the most grueling exams in China. In New Zealand, how do you combine this quality with the rigor, right? You don't want students to be too relaxed, but also to be able to learn.
Look, I think it's a mix of both. At the end of the day, parents, families and governments, they want their students to have high quality education. They want them to have international qualifications, but they want them to be well-balanced, sound and happy students as well. And we're fortunate to be able to provide that sort of warm and welcoming environment where you can have both. It's an and. You can achieve the academic qualifications that you need and also succeed and be well balanced in a modern world as well. And I think we're able to provide both. I think that's part of our attraction. So we are undertaking university reforms, and that is to create more opportunities for students. We've also undertaken some vocational education reforms to have a modern and fit-for-purpose education system. And I think the combination of this is what talks to high-quality education and a really warm, inclusive environment for students to learn and live. I think that combination is very powerful.
What about dealing with the age of artificial intelligence, where so much knowledge, especially when it comes to the fundamentals in social science as well as natural science, it can be at your fingertips. What is the direction, the orientation for education in New Zealand going forward? Are there reforms underway? Are there overhaul of overlapping institutions? How are we getting ourselves prepared for the age of AI that we currently live in?
So we're all wanting to have the benefits of artificial intelligence, which include productivity. I know the education system is looking at how they might improve, for example, examination assessments. But we also all want the guardrails and the safety nets that go with it. And I know China is a party to the Bletchley and the Paris Declaration. So are we, because we agree that these are international standards that provide some safety around artificial intelligence. So we're wanting to progress in a modern world for the opportunities that artificial intelligence brings, but we want to have the appropriate safety nets and social license that lets us get the best of artificial intelligence. And China is also a signatory to some of those international declarations that lets us have those guardrails.
But what about the configuration of subjects? If you think about it, students may no longer need to learn as much, to memorize as much as they used to, because they can simply be accessing those stuff from ChatGPT or DeepSeek. So what are the important qualities that educational institutions can enable and enrich the students today with?
I think from an education perspective, we want our students to be knowledgeable and safe with artificial intelligence. And actually it's not that different from when the internet and web browsers first came on. How do we have students be a part of that modern world? How are they taught to be disciplined and safe with these modern tools? It's the same with artificial intelligence. It is another digital evolution. How do we help students be knowledgeable with artificial intelligence, but how do we help them be safe in its use? That's what we look to teach.
You've also spoken a little bit about modernizing New Zealand's universities.
So recently we have pivoted the education system, the schooling system for primary and secondary school, towards what modern technologies might require of them, where the learning can be best placed. And so that means that they're now more likely to be taught about emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. Similarly, at a university level, recently I pivoted the university system towards a preference for STEM subjects, which of course includes artificial intelligence as well. So as an education system, we're understanding that the modern world requires us to be knowledgeable with these technologies, and so we've made specific decisions to pivot the system towards that.
Yeah, I met Minister Huai a couple of times. What impressed you when you talked with Minister Huai, who oversees the educational system in China, not just higher learning, but vocational learning? That is a big part of the Chinese education. Primary school systems, compulsory education systems. What are your biggest takeaways?
It was a real privilege to meet with Minister Huai, and I think what struck me was how common we have our goals. So he indicated to me that what's important is food science, what's important is health science, what's important is environmental science. Well, that's important to me and to us in New Zealand, just as it is to people in China. So how joined our thinking was around the key priorities, and how it is better for each of us if we share and cooperate and bring our experience and our resources together around these priorities, and indeed future priorities that we may have. So I think that's what struck me the most, the common ground that we had and so easily had.
We have a lot of common ground. I mean, China and New Zealand are going for first. So if you think about it, in many areas, diplomatically, militarily, in terms of trade cooperation, New Zealand was the first Western
FTA.
country to recognize China's full market economy status. What do you think are the areas that the two sides can complement each other, can forge greater synergy in science and innovation?
Look, I think the priorities that the ministers from China have indicated around food science, and we've talked about that, we have some expertise that we can bring to that table, around health science, the opportunities for us to collaborate. In fact, we already are. We talked about things like CAR T cells, which is a treatment for cancer. Well, you know, that's involvement from China and it's involvement from New Zealand. And here we are at the cutting edge of a new cancer treatment because we both brought skills together. And then, of course, environmental science as well. We all have interests in how we can have a safe natural world and what we can do about sustainability. So these were areas that were very easy to come together and say, we need to do more. We do some things together, but there's so much opportunity for us to do more, and that's where our collective educational institutions will look to come together to bring students together, to bring that knowledge together so that we can advance on these priorities that are important to China and important to New Zealand.
What do you think does New Zealand have to offer when it comes to sustainability technology? Because New Zealand got to where it is thanks to, of course, the environmentally conscious population, but also the technologies.
So we have 80 to 85% renewable energy substantively through hydroelectric energy. So we do have that background, and around that we're also looking to build geothermal, wind, solar, other endeavours that China is very good at and looking to progress as well. So we'll continue to make our way and try and develop more renewable energy across all of these domains, and would welcome that collaboration with China. You are particularly good, amongst other things, at solar energy. There are some learnings that we could have and some shared collaborations. We're quite good at geothermal. We're quite good at hydroelectric. Let's share and put our experiences together and see how we can both benefit.
When I look at the beautiful mountains of New Zealand, sometimes I think about the danger, the impending danger of climate change, and how our friends, brothers and sisters in New Zealand look at this issue. How much of a pending danger is climate change to your country?
Oh, we are concerned with climate change like other like-minded countries are. We have a Minister for Climate Change who indeed visited China several months ago. So that's a good signal of how important we place climate change as a government. But I think what's also important is how we can get to solutions, how we can collaborate together with other countries who are making progress in various areas around climate change, and how we can all come together with solutions to do a better job.
But when it comes to the imminent danger of climate change that it imposes on some smaller, Pacific Island states of your neighbors, like the Solomon Island, like Fiji,
Tuvalu.
Tuvalu, the leaders of which we've interviewed, they've really expressed a urgency to rally the countries around, to put aside their differences and to act.
We have the same concerns that they do because we're part of the Pacific Islands Forum, which is the premier forum for Pacific Islands to express their concerns and their priorities. And we're an active member of that forum, and we support our Pacific Island nations and understand their concerns, which are our concerns as well.
What would be your advice to the Chinese students who are still adjusting to the life in New Zealand? What kind of cultural sensitivity and cross-cultural understanding that they should get themselves familiarized before they can fully make use of their life, their student experience in New Zealand?
Sure, I would say to them, embrace the environment. We are warm people and you are welcome. So be bold, go out, shake a hand that you might not have shaken, say hello to someone you may not have said hello to. We are warm, you are welcome, let's enjoy the moment.
Maybe take up a sport. When I was in New Zealand, turn on the TV, it's rugby, right?
It is.
Yes, Aussie and Kiwi style rugby. No helmets.
That's correct. In fact, in 48 hours, our premier team, the All Blacks, will be playing Ireland in Chicago, but that's a different question. But yes, be involved in communities, be involved in society, pick up a sport, go to a book club, do all the things that you may or may not have that opportunity in your homeland. Learn something new, do something new, be brave.
Very good. And now looking ahead, what is your hope for the future of China and New Zealand education as good and sustained this relationship has been for the past decades?
I am very encouraged by the warmth and the depth of the relationship and the reception that we've received here. It reaffirms to me that long track record and history we have of strong and trusted relationships, and that's a good foundation to move forward into the future. So I'm excited for what we can do with education across all of the education spectrum, from early childhood to primary and secondary school, to vocational education, to universities and postdocs and beyond. Across all of that, I think there is something that we can offer, that we can mutually benefit from. And so it's been a real privilege to be here as the country of honour and to be reaffirmed of that, to have the audience, the environment and your ministers and your government reaffirm the strength of the relationship and the opportunities and the promise and the hope going forward.
Yeah, because when you talk to some Chinese parents, when they pick a destination for their kids to study in, they're concerned about of course, the international environment as well.
Sure.
As some countries turns inward, at least that looks so to many, and some parents, some Chinese parents, they're concerned and they're sending their kids to countries like New Zealand and the UK instead.
Sure. Look, I think I want parents to know that we will look after their children. Thank you for placing that trust with us. We will give them a quality education. We will give them international qualifications. We'll give them a warm learning environment, and then we'll return them to you with skills, with qualifications, safe and with well-being.
All right, Minister Reti, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, thank you.